So what's up everybody, I'm Michael and we're finally back. We're going to go back into the BIOS. We're going to attempt this per core overclock. And yes, I still have my camera looking at my screen. Let me adjust it. See if that's a little bit better. So I did have a capture card, but the only reason I would need a capture card is to capture BIOS, which is kind of not worth the price to me, in my opinion. So I mean, why pay 180 bucks just to capture BIOS, you know what I'm saying? So I decided to go back to the camera, old school style, throwback, you know what I mean? So what we're gonna do here first is I have to disable my Optane memory. We're gonna attempt a per core overclock, and then we're gonna do a 5.2 gigahertz overclock, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Let me try to fix this so you can actually see what's going on. Here we go. So I do want to disable my Optane just in case I have some sort of crash. I don't know what that'll do to my secondary drive, but it won't be good. I don't want to find out. This will be just the same as the first video I uploaded to YouTube. My first video ever where I did a 5.1 gigahertz overclock. But this time we're going to do 5.2. We're going to try a per core overclock. So let's try that. I've been promising it. I'm only 3 weeks late. So that's kind of crappy of me. But yeah, so we're going to get in here and let's do it. We're going to do a restart right here. I've been promising this for a while. My apologies. So this is the Z490. It's a 10700K Z490 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi, and that's my motherboard. So we're gonna jump up here in this BIOS here, boys and girls, and everybody in between on the side stat. Here we go. You can see right now I'm running at 5 gigahertz. That's what I usually run at. I got my XMP on at 3200 Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro, 32 gigabytes of RAM. That's what I have. I'll show you my PC here in a minute so you can see what those Corsair QL120 fans ended up looking like. They look pretty good. All right, so here's what I promised was a look at how this turned out. Let me get this thing focused good here-ish. Let's pop it open. So this is with the Corsair QL120 fans. Look at that. Looks good. See if I can fix this here. So here it is. I'll put 2 of them on the bottom and the 3rd one in the back here. And there's my 4 RAM sticks. They're 4 8 gigabyte RAM sticks. See if I can get this color to represent reality a little better. That's actually more like it. So there's what it looks like now. Looks good. So let's go here. Let me show you. See if we can find the BIOS. So you can see up here, here's my BIOS version. E7C79 IMS.120. It was updated 7/22. It became available. So I got this from the MSI website under support, and you find your motherboard, and then you update your BIOS. You flash your BIOS. So here I'm in the OC Explorer mode. I'm an expert, and I think the only thing I've noticed so far was the CPU cooler tuning. I don't know what this does. This 4096 seems to kind of mimic my settings down here. Let's see. It's one of these power settings here. Oh, yeah, 4096. So there it is. I'm guessing it kind of takes what you put in here and it says whatever. Sets the power available to your cooler. Adapting CPU power limit profile. Yeah. Okay, whatever. I don't even know what this means. Is this even useful? Maybe. Probably not though. So anyway, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna try per core overclock. So it should be just as simple as typing per core. I've tried it before. My core 0 and 1 are my best core. So I go 51 on both of those, and 5,000 all the way down through here. And this should work. There's no reason this shouldn't work. So let's see, let's run it. F10, all I did was went per core, 51 on 0 and 1, 50 on the remaining cores. loaded up, we should be running 51 on the first 2 cores and 50 on the remaining 6. This is an 8-core processor, and you know, let's see here. We'll go ahead and use 8 here. We're popping here. 4.66. What kind of crap is that? So it's running at 4.7 all core. That's what it's doing. That's not what I told it. I told it what to do. I told it 51, 0 and 1, and 50 the rest of the way down. Something stopped it. What stopped it? I've been trying to find out. So what I did is I went to Event Viewer. I'm gonna show you just the steps that I took. I come into Windows Log. I look at System here. So if we come down to the reboot we just did, it's 637. 636 is the latest. All right, whatever. So we're gonna come down here. We'll ride through some of these. So we're just gonna see here what this is telling me. So the one I want to look for is these two, these kernel processor. So if you look here, idle state, ACPI, C states, 1 state, blah, blah, blah. Some kind of control, nominal frequency, 3 point. Okay, so this is telling me something changed something. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured it out yet. But you can see each core, or each thread actually, has an entry. If you look here at the maximum performance percentage, 4 of these should be a higher number. Was it 4? Yeah, 4 based on your 2 best performing cores. So these are 131s. Maximum performance percentage, 131, 134, there's one. So that's one of your better performing cores, and it recognizes that. If we keep going down, we'll find a few more. They're kind of trickled in here. There you go. Is that it? You making me a liar here, bruh? 34, so there's 1. Okay, there's 2, okay. So there's the 2, I'm guessing cores 0, 1, the best performing cores. So the weird thing is you can go into Intel Extreme Tuning Utility and you can do a per core overclock. Okay, there's the other 2. But who wants to do that? I mean, who wants to boot their computer, go in there and overclock it in Windows? No, we want to do it in the BIOS. We want it to do exactly what we tell it to do because that's what we pay for. Sorry about that. Let me fix this. I mean, why wouldn't it? You know? So it's kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. I haven't got it to work yet. This is on a dynamic mode, so you'll see the gigahertz, you'll see the clock speeds dropping. Obviously, 4.7 is the max it reached, and you saw what I set it at, so that's kind of messed up. But it is what it is. Anyway, let's do a 5.2 gigahertz overclock real quick. Just a real easy one, 10700K, and I haven't attempted this yet. Let me fix this. Give it some brightness here. I have not attempted a 5.2 gigahertz on my 10700K. This will be the first time I've tried it. 100% first time I've tried this. I have not tried it. But yeah, so let's first we're going to set it back to 5.0. We'll run a Cinebench R20. We'll run 2 of them, and then we'll set it to 5.2 and see what kind of better performance we get. You know, again, this is a Z490 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi. So it has the 400 chipset, the 10th gen Intel. All right, so we're going to go all core since that doesn't work. Since they won't let me do that, I'll just go all core. Fine, you win. Let's do all core. Why even have it in the BIOS? If anybody out there runs Linux or something and they're able to get the per core overclock to work, let me know. I'm curious. I've been through all the forums. I went to the Intel genuine.dll. I went through those steps, changed that file extension to .old, changed ownership and everything. I did all that. That doesn't work, by the way. Here's the file I saved, a backup copy. There it is. If you do searches on this issue, you'll run into a forum that mentions this file. I saved a backup file before I changed the name. It didn't work. Here's my backup file. I didn't delete it yet. So that did not work. So right now we're at 5.0 gigahertz. We're gonna run, what am I doing here? We're gonna run a Cinebench R20. I can't remember which one's which. Yeah, there's the 20. So we will open hardware info here so we can watch what's happening. This is kind of reminiscent of my second video where I did the BIOS temps and speeds, and here we go. Let's run it. You're gonna hear my fans ramp up. I have the Kraken X73 360mm AIO. It's going. Move this over so you can see the beautimousness of it. Well, let's go down here and look at these temperatures while this is going. So also want to compare that. Where am I going here? There we go. Here's our max temps, 82 on core 2, 81 on core 4. It's warm in here, so they're gonna run a little warmer. That's okay. Usually 2 and 4 are 80, and everything else is in the 70s, usually. I did adjust some of my settings in my X73 in the cam software, so maybe that has something to do with what's going on here. I modified them a little bit. So we're running R20 at 5.0 gigahertz at 1.325, 1.33, it looks like a 1.33. 1.325 is what I have it set at. So we got a 5022. We'll write that down here. We'll go 5.0 gigahertz. We'll save this. Save it on the desktop as 50. Versus 52, why not? Yep, save that on desktop. Boom. So 5022 at 5.0. You see these temperatures? They're pretty dang toasty. So let's see what we got this set up. These are my settings. I'm gonna raise this up to there. Fan 1, that's the fan that is, we're gonna raise these up to here. And we'll raise these up a little bit. Just for this 5.2 overclock. Alright. And these are the case fans. I have them running off of GPU temperature. Because usually when the GPU heats up, it fills the case with heat. And I make this, hopefully, the idea is these will blow that heat out because these are the fans that are blowing out of the case. And these are the inlet fans, or the 3 fans on the front of the case on the radiator. That's the idea. That's my idea. All right, so let's close it, reboot. We'll do a well, let's run 2 of these. Let's run a second one. Let me open this. We got this open. Second one's running now. It's going. Man, didn't reset the temps. I'll reset those. So 83 on core 2, 86 on core 2. This is the hottest this has ever run in Cinebench R20. It never gets that hot. That's okay though. Still not bad. It's warm in here. Still, it's okay. The fan's finally ramped up a little more. Kind of weird. Maybe I'll crank these fans up for the 5.2. Yeah, I would probably want to crank them up for that. Alright, so that score was a 5037, so that was a little bit better. So we'll put run to 5037. Then we'll go out. We're going to do a 5.2 gigahertz. Alright, so let's reboot. Let's set the 5.2 gigahertz overclock, and we'll come back in and try this, see what these temperatures are. And I am going to modify cam a little bit to give me more cooling. So let's do that. The reason I went into Event Viewer to try and figure out if there was anything in there, any entries that I could recognize that were keeping the per core overclock from working, is because I've used that in the past, that technique, and it has worked. I was able to find that Dragon Center was overriding my overclock, which, like, I didn't turn off the setting. I mentioned this, but I did not turn off the extreme performance setting in Dragon Center. So luckily it overrid the overclock, which was probably a good thing for me, because who knows what it would have done. So it did it was the problem. So you want to go 3 under here, we're gonna go 49. I've never tried a 5.2 gigahertz overclock. I'm assuming that I should probably raise this. So I'm gonna go 1.34, 1.35. There we go. We'll leave these as they are. We'll leave that DRAM voltage there. Looks good. Soon I'm gonna overclock this memory here. It's 3200 megahertz XMP memory. I'm gonna attempt to overclock that as well, and I'll record it and we'll see how that works. So here we go, a 5.2 gigahertz overclock. I've disabled anything that matters that could cause a problem here. So let's run it and see what we get. And like I say, I did raise the voltage to 1.35. First attempt at 5.2 gigahertz overclock. You saw what I did, not much to it. So we booted, and that looks good. That doesn't mean anything. So we will open hardware info here. 5.2, I've never done that. Curious to see what we got. So it's running 5.2, yep, looks good here. 52 is all the way down. Temperatures are idling a little higher than usual. Okay, 45, yeah, okay, it's about, it's close. All right, we're gonna reset that. We'll run Cinebench R20. Let's pull up our other little piece of paper here. Here we go. So you see our last two runs, 5022 and 5037. This is an i7-10700K at 5.2 gigahertz on a Z490 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi, 1.35 volts. The load line calibration is set to 3, nice steady. So we'll see, it's straight across. That line goes straight across, and we'll see how it works. So here we go. We're gonna run Cinebench R20 twice. And I know I probably hit the 90s since I put it to 5.2, but we will see. Let's do this first. I don't think the pump is really gonna matter, but we'll do the fans here. We'll start raising it as it hits 50 degrees, which is about where it's at. Okay, it's at 38, okay, perfect. And we'll say that if it hits 75, we want it at 100% fans. So let's see what happens. We're running it, let's run it. We're gonna watch this. Here's my temperatures right here. Okay, so we're up in the mid 80s on some of them, a high 80s there. Oh, and it crashed. So 1.35 at 5.2 gigahertz is not gonna work. Yeah, it couldn't even run Cinebench R20. I'm surprised, to be honest. That's okay, that's when we got this Z490 board. It's made to crash. We can recover, no problem. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back in here. So it's at 5.2 all-core, 1.35. We're gonna set this to 1.36. We'll go 1.36. 1.3. We don't want to do that. Yeah, don't do that. 1.36. There's red. That doesn't look good, but we'll be fine. Yeah, keep it under 1.4, right? This is the highest I've ever pushed this chip. And it could be low line calibration. I could, mess with that some. Maybe that'll fix it. But right now we're just trying to get 5.2 to run R20. That's the goal here. So we can look at some temperatures. Let's make sure. Let's check a couple things here. Let's make sure that crash didn't reset my ratio somehow. Yeah, okay, whatever. 5.2, perfect. Looks good. All right. So the temperatures look decent. You can hear my fans working. I love that sound. Come on, Cinebench. We just want to run one Cinebench, right? So let's open this text pad because hopefully it's going to work this time. I talked a lot of trash about how good my CPU is, and look at him. He ain't even giving me a 5.2 gigahertz. Come on, bro. Let's do this. So anyway, wasting time. We're gonna get to Cinebench here. This is just Cinebench R20, you know? Come on, don't crash this time. Here we go. Fingers are crossed. Fans ramping up. 81. Fans really ramping up. Yeah. So we're at 86. Okay. So let's go look at the MOSFETs down here just to see what the temperatures are on that on a 5.2. That's something else you don't want to worry about. There it is. This max is 61.5. So it looks like this is a pretty safe overclock. Look at that. It's running this time. All I did is I raised the voltage 0.01 volts. So we're actually maxing out at 1.37 volts, which is pretty high. I mean, look at that, man. We're in the mid 80s, fans ramping. I love this cooler. Let's see what the speed is. 5213. Wow, that's a significant jump in my opinion. Let's put that down. So look at that number, 5213. I'll zoom in here. So there's our two from the 5.0 gigahertz run, 5022 and 5037. Look at us, sitting with a 5.2 gigahertz at 1.376, 1.36 voltage. We ran a 5213 in R20, not too bad. Oh. All right then, so let's save that. We'll run another one. See if it can survive a second run. Well, that makes me happy. You know, although I'm not gonna run this at 5.2 gigahertz. I'll run it at 5 gigahertz. I get what I need out of it. I don't really get any benefit out of that extra 200, megahertz. I mean, that I've noticed. Clearly, there are some cases where you would, but I don't want it to get up in the 80s like this. And it usually doesn't. If I'm gaming, I hit about 65 max. So let's see if 5213, see if we can beat that with this next run. We're staying under 90. That's good. So this video, before I cut any parts out of it, it's at 23 minutes. I'm gonna debate whether I just put this up as is, but I don't want you guys to have to sit through the reboots. What do we get this time? 5245. That's impressive. So we beat that. So that's a run 2 at 5245. Wow. So there you go. You can do a 5.2 gigahertz overclock with a 10700K with a 360 millimeter AIO, which is my NZXT Kraken X73, and it works like a champ, man. You saw what I did here. We'll go back in and look at the settings one more time. And again, my apologies for not keeping the capture card. It was just pointless to me. I mean, you can use OBS to capture this screen. I probably should have. All these shots that I did here, I should have captured with OBS, but I didn't. I captured them with my S20 Ultra, and yeah, sorry about that. Here's the per core overclock video that I had promised weeks ago. I'm late. I'm sorry about that. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. We'll go back in here one more time and we'll look at these settings. I'm gonna set it back to 5.0 gigahertz because that's what I run daily. 5.0, 1.325, and it runs perfect. Until I run into, a program that it can't handle with those settings, I'll leave it that way. My temperatures are reasonable. I just don't have the use for 5.2 yet. But we can do a test in gaming where, I know they show the charts on all these other channels. They'll show you charts comparing the two, and boom, boom, you got the chart, you're done, you're good. But I want to run it live. I want to play a game, see if I can really tell. I doubt I'll be able to, but we'll try that out too. We'll get back to it. We've been real busy. So I go back to 50, change this right here to 47. Whatever that water cooler thing is, yeah, whatever. That's weird. All right, so then I'm gonna change this one back to 1.325 because that's what I like. And that was it, just as simple as that, those 3 settings. Take a peek at my settings here. They work well, they work well. Yes, you can tweak it more, yes. Yeah, whatever, that's disabled. Yeah, I think I did that trying to get the per core overclock to work. I tried going through here, enabling, disabling all this stuff, and I just didn't have any luck. So if you do, let us know. Share it with the group, with the community here, and we will very much appreciate that. So I'm getting back to my 5.0 gigahertz overclock. Load back in, re-enable Optane memory. I'm ready to game again. This board handled a crash, nothing messed up, did just fine. That's what it's made for. Should also be made for allowing me to do a per core overclock if I want to, because don't tell me you're gonna give me that option and it doesn't work. Somebody needs to fix something. So it's either Windows, Intel, or MSI. Somebody's blocking something and not allowing this to happen. Yeah, it's pretty frustrating, but it is what it is. So I mean, I guess we gotta deal with it. But I guess the next step I could do, I could open a ticket maybe with MSI maybe. But if it's not them, then does it matter to them? Probably not. All right, so here's my idle temps. And we'll run it one more time for old time's sake. Make sure it doesn't crash at 5.0. I mean, geez, that's got me kind of worried now. Just that 1.01 voltage made that difference. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty cool. So I put it back to 5.0, fans ramping up, sounds beautiful. I love it, love it. I love it when the fans ramp up. That's me, I like it. So 5245 was the last run at 5.2 gigahertz. We're at 5.0 gigahertz now. It's probably gonna be a 5022-ish like it was the last 5.0 run. $16 squares. Oh yeah, it's definitely not as fast as the 5.2. Clearly. There we go, 5017 on that initial run. That will conclude the video. I appreciate it, and I'll be back with more. So y'all have a good one.